Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and gamers, and potentially Mumbo Jumbo. This is my machine on, well, a flying machine. This machine builds flying machines. Now, the way this happens is, it's not the most complicated, but I do think the fact that there's a machine that can build a flying machine for us is pretty cool. So I thought I would show you guys. So I'm going to just run it through one time for you guys so you can see it in action, and then I'll explain what's happening for you guys. So yes, there is two pressure plates. Flying machine's working, and trying to line that up perfectly was a bit of a challenge. But if we do this first, the flying machines fly in a certain order. There's ghost blocks, and they can be everywhere sometimes with this thing. For instance, here's two extras, which do actually have to go. But as you can tell, it didn't update that. So what this does is it moves in sections over here, and when we hit this, because of the rate it fires, it puts a flying machine in here. It locks it into place to make sure nothing goes wrong, and well, it functions just fine. So this little thing is really cool. I think it's amazing, and I'm going to show you guys how it all works. Alright, let's talk about this orange line first. So the way this works is that when we activate this pressure plate, a signal goes around to each of these obsidian platforms, and they have a redstone lamp. When the redstone lamp turns on, it sends a signal to the observer which powers it. The way that this is able to work is the fact that this observer, when it goes in, if this observer goes in before this goes in, it's going to update some of the pistons here and mess things up. So we simply add a bit of delay, move these farther away from the machine than this platform is, for instance, just to ensure this is there and stationary, no longer putting on signal before this is in. And it does the same thing on the other side. So if we can activate this really quick, you'll see this is now stationary before this one even makes it in. That's another ghost block. And you will see when we get in here that this is actually a very familiar shape. There's an observer, a slime block, and a sticky piston, which is the exact same as the flying machine. Observer, slime block, sticky piston. So that's the way the orange line works. It is the most simple part of this contraption, and let's step on to the next circuit, which is up here at the top. Alright, here we are. So this circuit is used to be able to send each of the flying machines back to their stations, and to be able to press the slime machine down. So let me show you what's happening. Well, let's discuss before I show you. So this signal travels up from this pressure plate up here, and it goes around. So it is doing two things at the same time, almost the same time. First thing first, it is pressing this slime machine down. And while it's doing that, because this slime block is not touching this through a slime block, it detaches. So it slides this machine down, which frees up the other flying machines. They have basically dropped off what they need to drop off for the flying machine. When that happens, a signal goes around to a little observer tower to power this obsidian, which will power this piston and this piston, because it'll be a block lower, pushing it directly in front of that bottom piston there, which will be on the next circuit we're going to talk about. Now, on this side, it's easier to explain that once this is fired, this activates and just simply sends it right on back to dock. And these over here, the ones that drop off the observer, simply have a downward facing piston that upstates the observer quickly. So if we go over here, watch this piston and watch this piston. A lot happens. You get pushed out of the way sometimes, but all these get sent right on back to their stations. They have dropped off what they need to. This is a ghost block. Proof. Watch if it updates. Nope. But it pushes it down in front of this. Now, for it to move over, that's going to be the next circuit we talk about. Alright guys, so this green line is in place, and allow me to explain. All it does is when this pressure plate is activated, it'll send a signal along to these. So this blue line activates first, just because I have delay on all of these. It'll push down this 3 blocks and this 3 blocks, and it'll go in front of these pistons and be pushed to the center to create one of these flying machines, which is these 6 blocks I'm pointing at. When it does that, it'll try to update the observer though and begin to fly off without you, which is not necessarily the best use of a flying machine. So we have this double piston extender over here, which is hooked up to a pulse lengthener. That's the word for it. Pulse lengthener, extender, whatever you would like to call it. And it'll push the piston face over to this block here in front of the observer, so the observer cannot take off, because a piston face is an immovable block. Then once it's all taken care of, it's not going to be moving anywhere. The piston is brought right back in and it stays still, which is fantastic. So we're going to have a little bit of difficulty to get there in time due to how quickly this all happens. So see, the piston is extended and then it comes back. And when it comes back is when these flying machines, these three, all take out from there. So it gets all pushed to the center, it's all taken care of, and well, there is one other thing we need to talk about, and that's this section right over here. Alright, so this is a little overly complicated for what it needs to do, but it is needed to get done what needs to get done. So let's get that out of here and let's simply fire off only one section of this, because that's all this is doing. Now, most of the other sections were able to just simply get by with only having the observer or a piston fire to be able to get it to move. This one, however, due to where it is and the amount of, well, the amount of ghost blocks that occur right here made it so we needed to do something special. So what this does is simply, when this fires, this system fires, this updates, but it doesn't pull back quick enough. The piston doesn't retrieve its blocks quick enough for the flying machine to start up. So what we have here is going from the green line, it activates this brown line. It goes into a pulse extender and into this, which is basically, it's a falling edge monostable circuit. But it's also powered at the very beginning of when it starts. So it creates multiple pulses in front of this thing to fire it. So best way we can actually look at this is if we break the redstone. And let's move that right there, so we're able to get a clear view of it. So all this does is fire it up to make sure that it will leave. And if it doesn't leave there, it fires a second time just to ensure that it doesn't, because it is very inconsistent, unfortunately. So that's all that brown line is for. It kind of depends on chunk boundaries and where you build it, but honestly, sometimes it works just fine, and this isn't even needed at all. So it is a very finicky piece of the machine, but it does get rid of that finickiness to make sure that it works each time. Now, with all of that taken care of and out of the way, we're on to, well, let's just show you what it looks like again. Pop in a slime block and an observer. Those are ghost blocks. Sticky piston, slime block, observer. We fire off the orange line first, and it brings all these into the center force and forms our two basic modules for the flying machine. We hit this, which first activates the blue line, then the green line, then the brown line. And when it does that, it puts together our flying machine. Then all it is a, well, wooden slab on top of a redstone lamp, and you are off on your flying machine. This thing's fantastic. I love it. I do plan on adding a segment to this to be able to put in these pieces to the flying machine above and below this machine, so that way you don't even have to place the blocks in every time. You're able to put in like a storage of observers, slime blocks, and sticky pistons so that they all form in where they are needed. But I decided, you know what, guys, this is enough content. Man, sometimes ghost blocks. But I think that is enough for this video, guys. Thank you guys for stopping by, checking it out. I am honestly really impressed with how well this thing actually works, and the fact that it does work, because I mean, this is a machine that makes flying machines. I don't think you see this every day in Minecraft. But thank you guys so much for stopping in. I greatly appreciate it. I'm somebody at Gaming to Remember. Please like, comment, subscribe down below, and I will catch you guys back here in the next one. Goodbye.